come up with a way to totally eradicate this whole idea of rejection in sales. If it's over at hello, how the heck are you going to succeed in selling? You've got to rise above that and change your mindset. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Stump The Guru Show. Hope you're all doing well. We are back again for some fun action, some coaching live without a net. This is our monthly show where we have thousands of listeners that listen to our podcast from this recording every month through Spotify or other podcast locations. Lots of great feedback. My name is Ari Galper. I specialize in trust-based selling. Been doing this one thing for the last 20 years, specializing in the one call sale, how to build trust with people quickly, how to avoid chasing folks, getting stuck in the black hole of chasing opportunities and not getting calls back, all those ugly things from the 80s we're still stuck using after all these years. So this is a chance to jump on live. If you're not here yet, just go to www.stumptheguru.com and that will bring you into the show. If we have time, we can pull you in for a question. I do see a lot of people sitting, waiting to jump in today, more than we ever had before, actually, which is great. The word's getting out. But I wanted to encourage you to jump in if you can. If not, come back next month again, and you can ask me a live question. This is your chance to bring me your toughest scenario, your most complex situation, where you're stuck with an opportunity you know could be great for you, but just will not come on board. And I'll give you some insights best I can. And your job is to give me something challenging. And I'll give you some homework to take away or some ideas to implement right away. And off you go. So the theme of today's show is how not to get ghosted from people. And I'm sure you know what that means. Great conversation with somebody, great chemistry, potential fit. They want to think about it and you chase them and now they're gone. So there's a pragmatic way of solving that problem. It's a system change. And it's what I call shifting your model to a by appointment only model on the calendar. So if you have a great chat with someone, say on the phone or on Zoom for a first meeting, chemistry, they've got a problem you can solve, they like you, all is going well, rather than saying, hey, great, we'll talk a couple weeks from now. What you want to do is you want to gently move them to a next calendar appointment. They got to be on the calendar. If they're off the calendar, you're in trouble. If they're on their calendar, it's looking good. And here's languaging to use to move them from the end of the call to the next step on the calendar. Here's what you say. If you'd be open to it, it might be helpful for us to schedule a time on our calendars now to meet up again next couple of weeks. That way we can avoid each other going back and forth, and I can answer any questions you might have as you put more thoughts into this, and we can go from there. How's that sound to you? Now, in most cases, if they are a fit and they really want your help, they're going to say, makes sense. Sounds good. Why not? If they don't want to meet with you, well, that's a separate problem. That tells you something went wrong inside the conversation where they didn't trust you enough to agree to a meeting for a next step. And that's the question I'll leave you with is how can you build more trust in your first meeting with people so they do stay with you on your calendar? And on that note, we will jump over to Steve, who I know is in the back room there with all the folks waiting to jump on live. We have a clock running right now, so we got to move through these questions as soon as we can. So, Steve, who do we have first?
All righty. Welcome, everybody. It's my summer jacket, so we're going to rock it today, nice and bright. I'm going to bring on Nick Hedges first. So, Nick, if you could let everybody know a little bit about you and who you are, and then your question for Ari, please.
Great. Thanks, Steve. And thanks for having me on the show, Ari. I'm Nick Hedges. I'm the director of an HR consulting business here in Sydney. And my question is actually completely related to what you were just asking, actually, Ari. So I'm finding that when I'm in my initial meeting with a client, with a potential client, and often it's a really warm lead, or I might have been referred to that person, and I'm just starting to unpack their problem. But as I'm unpacking their problem, I'm providing a lot of information to them, and telling them, think about this, or this is, we've got to be careful with this, or these are types of issues that might come up. And so I'm actually providing information to them to give them some value in my initial meetings. And what I'm finding is that we'll get to the end of that meeting, and it hasn't really helped, because what they said is, let me think about it, or I've got to take this back or whatever. So essentially they still want to think about it. So I guess the question, which is similar to what you just raised, is what would you suggest from there?
Sure. So what you're going through right there subconsciously is when they're describing their problem to you, your instinct, and you have what I call the curse of mastery, meaning you know your stuff so well that when you hear the problem, your instinct says to you, I can solve that. And so it happens automatically. And then what happens is you begin to share information with them to soothe their problem, to show them that you're qualified to solve it. We've been trained for years to prove ourselves to people, as to give them, quote, value, to allow them to agree to work with you. Now, what I discovered recently was, this came to my conclusion, is that value in itself has been commoditized. What I mean by that is people can find information and solutions anywhere they want now, online, from other experts. So attempting to educate them on how to solve their problem in that first meeting in itself does not contain any trust building. So what you want to do is don't attempt to solve their problem. It requires you to be very patient, to diagnose their issues, to unpack it, to peel the onion back, go back 4 or 5 layers to really help them understand the impact of the problem. How urgent is it? And do they want to solve it? Because the only first goal of that meeting is to have them own their own issue and ultimately say to you, Nick, how can you help us? We're serious about this. How do we get this thing going? That's not asking for a solution. It's asking you for how do we get started to solve the problem. It's a very slight distinction there. And what they want is to feel comfortable getting started, not how you solve their problem so quickly. And that's the switch right there. Once you get that in your mind and they see that roadmap in front of them, how to work with you, then they get on board and they're a client from them without giving any, quote, value for free upfront.
So what you're saying is continue just to ask those questions that delve deeper into the issue rather than go into any solution mode. So tell me more about that. Tell me more about that. How long's it been going on? What's the impact? Blah, blah, blah.
If you start to provide them solution-oriented information before you go below the iceberg and unravel all the depth behind their real issues, then you've cut off the ability to build trust with them, because they're judging you based on how you're handling them. If you're talking, because here's the thing, providing information to someone in your first meeting can be perceived as persuasion, because you may have a hidden agenda behind giving them information to get the sale. So that's why if you remove that piece of the puzzle, things will look better. So thank you so much, Nick, for coming on board today.
Thanks, Harry.
All right, take care. All right, we are back to the Stump the Guru show. We are getting questions from around the world. Nick, I believe, is in Sydney, Australia. And we have more folks in the green room here. And we'll stick with our timeline. So, Steve, who else do we have back there?
All righty. Coming up, we've got Peter Schultz. Hey, Peter, how are you today? If you can tell everybody a little bit about yourself and your question for Ari, please.
Thanks so much, Steve. Ari, good evening. Good morning. Good to chat to you again. Haven't seen you for a while.
Yes.
Ari, the question I really want to pose to you in our game, I'm country partner for Action Coach Business and Executive Coaching in South Africa. And obviously when we're doing a lot of work with clients from a client perspective, and you're taking the clients through that sort of diagnostic meeting, etc., and unpacking the issues, and I love the term that you always refer to as unpack the onion, you get them to a point. And again, I've learned from the master, getting them to the point where you ask them, so Steve, John, where do you think we should go to from here? And then they ask, but what are the next steps, etc. And I'm just fast forwarding here at the moment. And in today's world, we're doing a lot of those types of meetings where ideally you want them face to face, but oftentimes those meetings are now being held over Zoom in a virtual particular space. And when the question then gets posed, so where do we go to from here? And you get into that discussion. Well, the first thing we have to do is to to complete the agreement and sign the agreement. Now, in the old days, I say the old days, but in the old days, you could actually literally put out an agreement in front of them and get them to enter and complete the agreement there with you, and then move off, give them the welcome pack or whatever. In today's day, we do a lot of that online. And so in my case, I've prepared a lot of those agreements to go out in a sort of Adobe e-sign type of format. But very often, I found that most times people on an electronic space like that are reluctant, for all the reasons we probably are aware of, to actually sign those agreements and electronically in front of you, and they want to then go and get some time to reflect on it, etc. And I've always said, you own the sales process, but they own the purchase decision. And the moment I give them that opportunity to take 2 to 3 to 4 days, or whatever the case may be, to go and look at the agreement, sign it thereafter, I've lost control of the sales process. How in the digital world do we overcome that without pushing the sale, if you understand what I mean?
There are two things on this. First of all, the agreement they're signing, is it a simple one-pager?
It's a two-pager. It's a two-pager agreement, yeah.
Is it legalese, or is it plain English anybody can feel comfortable reading inside?
No, it's most times it's plain English. It's not legalese. No.
And are you sending it to them via the e-sign basically afterward, waiting for signature?
Yep.
All right. Here's what you do. When they say, where should we go? When you say, where do you want to go from here? And they say, how do we move forward with this? And you describe terms and how it works. They say, it sounds good. Here's what you do. You say, why don't we take care of this now?
Mm-hmm.
And you stay with them on Zoom, and you have them share screen. And you email it to them while they're on Zoom. Have them open it with you on Zoom. Have them read it with them word for word. You have any questions on that? That makes sense. And you literally have them sign it with you on Zoom.
Mm-hmm.
You don't send it and and turn it off Zoom. You do it right there and then. That's. Have you tried that before?
Tried that, but I've often found that people are reluctant to do that because they're not necessarily that geared up to do the electronic signature on, in things. And I get your point about sending them the agreement in Zoom as an attachment for them to open up and walking them through that particular process. I often find people are intimidated by that. Then you want to move away from that and go and reflect afterwards. And to your point, we've then just lost control of the sales process when they say, look, I need 4 or 5 days or however many days to go and reflect on that.
Hold on. That tells me something else then. Reflect on that tells me they are not sold or they don't trust you enough to make the decision right there and then.
Okay.
This is an issue of trust, not an issue of the agreement. If they are indecisive and they can't say to you, Peter, let's do this. There's another issue going on. It's not the contract.
Interesting. Yeah.
Now, first of all, what are they signing for exactly? What's the details of the program briefly?
It is a typically a 12-month agreement to enter into a business or an executive coaching agreement with us.
Okay, so you're a 12-month model. Okay, that's fine. So we won't touch that. But this goes back. What I always say: the sales lost in the beginning and not the end. Something is going wrong from the point of you unpacking their problem. And then from that bridging to the agreement, there's a piece right in the middle of that. And I think what's missing there is a roadmap piece, which is a piece. I don't know if you have access to that. That's my newest technology I've created. It's a visual tool that onboards them to your process where they agree to move forward and they own the next step. That's inside my Mindset Club. It's the one called Sale Course. But I think you're missing a component of trust in your process, because if they did trust you, then they would sign right there and then.
Okay. Yeah, I think your roadmap sounds interesting. Certainly look that up.
No worries. Take care. Good to see you again.
Thanks, Ari.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right. So we are back with the Stump the Guru Show. We have folks from Australia, South Africa, all over the world here to bring along their toughest challenge. Because always I find there's always an issue that's beneath the surface that folks can't see, and usually the opportunity is lost somewhere in the beginning of the process, not the end. So, Steve, who else is back there?
All righty, coming up, Scott Bywater. How are you today? If you could let everybody know a little bit about yourself, and Torrance talked about you, so I know you already from Torrance. even though it's the first time I see your face. Torin loves you, and I'll put that out in the universe because he always, we've joked around in calls over the years where he's always called you Australia's #1 copywriter. So I know as a New Yorker, the minute I hit the land in Australia, I have to find you for my copywriting needs. So I just thought that was really cool. I figured I'd share that with you for my time with Torin. But all right, if you can let everybody know your question and a little bit about what you're all about that I haven't already given up already for you.
Yeah, no, awesome. Thanks, Steve. Yeah, so as Steve was saying, I'm a professional direct response copywriter, and one of the things that what you taught me years ago, Ari, at a conference was a one-call sale, and I've been implementing that ever since, and it's saved me countless amounts of time and actually improved the conversion rate as well. What I'm finding recently, just over the last couple of weeks, because my closing is usually pretty good, but I'm getting some people, I think maybe because I don't know if it's economic or maybe I haven't qualified them properly or whatever, but they're like, I love this, but I've got a cash flow issue. And I'm sort of like, I'll say at the end, where should we go from here? They're like, I love it. I've got a cash flow issue. And then it's like, I'll book in a time for next month or next quarter, but I'm not getting that one call sale. So I'm like, oh, what's the gap am I missing? Is it the front of the sale, or is it something I'm not grasping at the end of the sale?
It's possible what you're missing here is the ROI or the loss related to the problem they have right now. What I mean by that is you have to essentially help them understand what the impact is to their business if they don't solve the problem they're coming to you with.
Yep.
See, most copywriters try and sell the future. They say, oh my God, if we can get this out to the market, you can grow your business 10x and you'll make so much money. It's fantastic. And they're like, well, I don't have any money now to do that. See, so I'm not sure you're doing this, but stay away from the future and focus on if you don't solve this problem, John, how much will you lose every month in your business if you don't solve it?
Yes.
See, people don't focus on the losses. They only focus on what they're making. You have to build a business case based upon the losses that justifies your fee to solve the problem.
Yes. Yep. And people do more to avoid a pain than get a gain.
Correct. So you're the doctor, they're the patient. You
Yep.
have an X-ray machine and you're showing them the totality of their problem that they can't see themselves. Give them clarity on the impact of their issues and whether they want to solve it or not before you even talk about your solution. So really it should be something like, tell me about your problem you're trying to solve.
Yep.
How long has that been a problem for? Wow.
Yeah.
What have you tried so far to work on that, fix it yourself? Okay. Have you calculated how much opportunity or money you're losing every month by not solving this?
Yeah. Which I do that to a degree, but I probably don't dive into it as deeply as I should. So that's a really good distinction, and exacerbate that pain point. Yeah.
But it's not the exasperation. It's not, you're not adding salt in the wound. What you're doing is having them own the truth of their situation. And you're going to ask them this question. You're going to say, is this a priority for you? To address and resolve once and for all and plug up this hole so you stop losing money. Is it a priority for you? If the guy says no, then say, have a nice day. If the guy says, yeah, I want to, but I don't have a lot of money right now, I say, no problem. Let's work out a way to work together. Be flexible. I'm open-minded. You give me what you think would be best for you. We'll work something out. And that's how you work it out.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. No, absolutely.
Great, Scott. Great to see you again, and glad you came on the show today.
Yeah. Thanks, Ari. Appreciate it.
All right. Take care. We are back to the Stump the Guru show. We are live, and this is your chance to jump on anywhere around the world. Bring me your most complex, toughest sales challenge, that you're stuck with, and you're wondering, you work so hard with somebody and now they're dropping off or it's not working out. And this is a chance really to pick up some dollars from your own backyard that maybe you couldn't get on your own from a different perspective. If you want to do a private consultation, not here, you can go to unlockthegame.com/free consult. And that's for your chance to apply for that as well. Or get my latest book, Unlock the Sales Game, at unlockthegame.com. You can grab a book, read about it, and if the philosophy makes sense to you, reach back out. Don't be afraid to do that. So who else do we have back there, Steve?
All righty, coming up, I'm going to bring on Eric. Eric, I apologize, I don't have your last name here on the screen, so if you could let everybody know who you are and your question for Ari, please.
Hi, I'm Eric. I'm in the States, and I'm a financial advisor, independent financial advisor. And it's nice to hear all these guys that have been working on this system for years still have questions. I'm relatively new. And so this is possibly a rookie question, but it's in line with your theme of ghosting.
Yeah.
So as you know, I'm working on integrating this system, the trusted authority system, and using these techniques. Now, this has worked well, opening some conversations with new people that I've met since you and I have talked together. What about people that you sometimes reference, like people that went by already, people that ghosted already, people that fell off the map because I did a pretty good job, but the trust wasn't there. Something happened in between the invoice, maybe like the cases that you were talking about with the previous guys. Is there a way to circle back, bring the trust element back to the previous conversation, or is it lost?
No, great question, Eric. So there is a recovery strategy you can use that I developed that's very effective, and it's authentic and based on trust. And obviously the whole goal here is not to be perceived as chasing them, because that breaks everything. So you want to reapproach them in a way that feels good for them and feels good for you. And the way you do that is you keep the conversation problem-centric. And here's languaging you would use. Hi, John. It's Eric here. How are you? We spoke a couple months ago. And here's what you say. I've been thinking about our conversation. And all of a sudden they feel this sort of warmth and sort of, huh? You're thinking about me? I've been thinking about our conversation and my notes that I wrote down from it. And I recall that you mentioned your biggest concerns were X, Y, and Z. It's like the doctor calling to say, how's the shoulder feeling? Does it still hurt? Not are you taking the medicine, but how's the shoulder doing? Same thing with you, Eric. You want to call and go back to the original problem they came to you for, and you want to see if that problem is still there or not. So you say, I've been thinking about a conversation, and I recall you mentioned you're very concerned about retirement and closing that gap from when you leave your job to having enough money to live for the rest of your life. Is that still a concern for you? Now, if they say to you, nope, we're all good, took care of it, got a plan, no problems, we're so happy, we got plenty of money, then you say, have a nice day. They say to you, yeah, that still is a worry for us. Because in your business, people don't always solve their problem so quickly. So, yeah, actually, we're still concerned about that. You say, no problem. Would you be open to us having a brief Zoom conversation to reconnect again, where I can possibly share some new insights with you, not information, some insights with you about your situation? Would you be open to that? And you bridge right from there to a scheduled appointment, get them back on Zoom, and you can go down the aspirate all over again. It's been a long time since I talked to them anyways.
Okay. Now, that seems like I get them on the telephone. Is that what you had in mind?
Zoom, ideally.
Zoom. But the first message, what you were just saying.
Yeah. That assumes you get them live on the phone, on a phone call. Obviously, if you can't get them live, then you're forced to go to electronic communication. You got to go an email. So just summarize what I just gave you on an email and cross your fingers and hope they reply back.
Cross the fingers. Of course, that's an important ingredient to sprinkle in.
But this goes back to the original question about keeping them on your calendar from the first meeting, the second meeting, all the way on versus off the calendar to avoid this situation. But the recovery languaging is very, very effective. And just try that, okay, Eric?
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks, Ari.
All right. Good to see you again. Take care. All right. We are on a roll here. We have, we're almost out of time. So I think we might need to call the show here. Actually, I see Derek down there. Can you bring Derek in, Steve? Because I know Derek's been waiting for a while.
We'll bring in Derek right now. Derek, how are you? Thank you for being patient and waiting and get that camera on. I do appreciate it. If you can let everybody know about you and your question for Ari, please.
Hey, Ari, good to see you again. So I'm an account manager for enterprise health and safety software. I got a bit of a different question that usually doesn't come up about the mindset, and it's about being in a competitive situation. So typically I'm up against competitors that will play hardball. So for example, we have a situation right now where a competitor is trying to sow seeds of doubt into our prospective clients. And what I mean by that is, the prospect will come to us and they'll say, I was just speaking to your competitor and he said, oh, you're thinking about going with them? You might want to reconsider because we got a list of clients that have actually switched from them. So I don't think it's a good idea. And so now I don't want to turn it into a mudslinging event where we got a list and, we're defending ourselves. So I'm wondering how to frame the conversation to kind of build trust, because I know they're playing hardball, they're being unprofessional, but I want to take the higher road in a situation like that.
Your answer is every business has folks who don't stay long term. Just like they would have the same as well. That's normal. It was always it's the 80-20 rule, Mr. Client. 20% of the people do move on over time. But the 80% of the people that we are the ideal fit that we solve a problem for stay a long time. But the real question here is we have to make sure that we're fit together and make sure your issues that you have fit exactly how we can help you. That's really the core I think we should consider. What are your thoughts on that, John?
Yeah, sure. That makes sense.
You're not defending yourself. You're explaining the truth from a different perspective. Everyone loses people. It's just the way things go. So you don't have to defend yourself. Just agree with it from a larger perspective that it happens to every business, even their business. All right, Derek, good to see you again.
You too. All right, thanks.
All right, take care. All right, we're going to call it for the show for today. If you're on waiting, please come back next month. We'll get you on first. Let the team know. And thank you all from around the world, from the United States, from South Africa, from Australia. I live in Australia, in Sydney here. And so we are here every month. And I hope you come back. And I hope you have a great month. If you have any questions at all, please go to unlockthegame.com/free consult to have a consultation privately with us, or of course, order my books that are on the website, unlockthegame.com. And I will share this with you now that the world has changed and trust right now is the lowest point it ever has been. If you are still selling the old way with educating people for free, doing free consulting, and trying to deliver value as opposed to trust building instead, you're going to be stuck and it's going to hurt. You'll lose great opportunities. So now is the time to shift your thinking before the world changes even more. On that note, we'll say goodbye for now. Signing off. Take care. I've come up with a way to totally eradicate this whole idea of rejection in sales. If it's over at hello, how the heck are you going to succeed in selling? You've got to rise above that and change your mindset.